Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I am Uzma Jafri. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Thursday, the 15th of September. 6 killed, more than 150 injured in Pakistan train crash. India hits out at Pakistan for instigating violence in Kashmir Valley. And colourful processions of Lord Ganesha mark end of 10-day festival. And now for all the details. At least 6 people were killed and over 150 others injured when an express train collided with a freight train in Pakistan's central Punjab region. A report.
A Karachi-bound express train hit a goods train which was standing on tracks early on Thursday near Multan in Punjab province of Pakistan. Rescue officials said many of the injured were given first aid on the spot, but several others had to be taken to hospitals. There was delay in emergency response due to Eid holidays. Pakistan's colonial-era railway network have fallen into disrepair in recent decades due to underinvestment, poor maintenance and corruption. Last November, 19 people were killed in Pakistan's Balochistan province after a train's brakes failed and it sped down the side of a mountain.
Meanwhile, in the 33rd session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva, India called on Pakistan to vacate the illegally occupied territories. It also lashed out at Pakistan for spreading cross-border terrorism in its northern Jammu and Kashmir province.
India called on Pakistan at the United Nations to vacate parts of Kashmir under its illegal occupation for more than 6 decades. The violence in Kashmir has reignited tensions with Pakistan as New Delhi blamed its neighbour for stoking trouble by pushing militants across the heavily militarized border that divides the region.
The whole problem is due to the fact of the cross-border terrorism. Pakistan is sending terrorists which are mingling with the crowd, using children as shields, and that we are trying to tackle. And India's, being world's largest democracy, has its own means, and all-party delegation has visited.
Speaking on the sidelines of the 33rd session of the United Nations Human Rights Council, or UNHRC, India's permanent representative to the UN, Ajit Kumar, iterated that Pakistan was illegally occupying the region.
The entire Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India. And what remains actually is the vacation of that illegal territory occupied by Pakistan. Also, the use of phrase Indian administered Kashmir is artificial one.
Taking a jibe at Pakistan, India also raised the issue of human rights violations in southwestern Balochistan by the country at the UNHRC. New Delhi has blamed Islamabad for instigating unrest in its northern Jammu and Kashmir province, but Pakistan denies giving material support to the guerrillas.
Moving on, in an effort to highlight the plight of the Tibetan people and injustices by the Chinese government, members of the community held a demonstration in Geneva. They distributed flyers and put up banners explaining their current situation.
Members of the Tibetan community staged a demonstration at the Broken Chair across the Palace of Nations in Geneva. In a press release, they listed various demands from UN. They also alleged of political repression, cultural assimilation, social discrimination, economic marginalization, and environment destruction imposed by the Chinese government and Communist Party. While talking about the injustices being inflicted at the Tibetan community, a member highlighted the demolition of buildings at Larungar, one of the largest centers of Buddhist learning in Tibet.
This is really sorrow and very sad for our people. There is no religion free, there is no political free, there are television, information, everything is stopped. Tibet has no right to talk about the free Tibetans. If they say free Tibetan, they are in jail and they are whole life in prison.
5 Tibetan families living in Switzerland started a campaign earlier this year to urge the Office of United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, the UN Office, and other international organizations to support their cause. Volunteers distributed flyers and helped generate support from the onlookers for their cause.
India's ties with Afghanistan look set to deepen following India's announcement of more development aid to rebuild its war-torn country. The announcement comes before a donor conference on Afghanistan, which is scheduled to take place in Brussels next month.
Having completed some of the long-pending infrastructure projects in Afghanistan, India has pledged an additional $1 billion for development in the conflict-torn country. The announcement was made during Afghan President Ashraf Ghani's visit to New Delhi. At their news conference, President Ghani and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said both countries are victims of cross-border terrorism and called for strengthening of security. Observers in India say the comment is a thinly veiled dig at Pakistan, and Islamabad will be irked by India's growing presence in Afghanistan.
We have been suffering in Afghanistan also, for the last 30-40 years now. And Pakistani is not, allowing Afghanistan to emerge as a modern nation state. They're using militants, to sabotage developmental activity in that country, which is done by the government of India. So we have very close friendly ties, and the visit of President Ashraf Ghani has further strengthened the ties between the two countries.
In their joint statement, the two leaders also criticized Pakistan for blocking the transit rights for goods between India and Afghanistan. Over the past decade, India has given more than $2 billion economic aid to Afghanistan.
United States President Barack Obama has said that US is prepared to lift some sanctions against Myanmar. This came as Myanmar State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi called on American President Barack Obama in a first White House meeting in Washington on Wednesday. The move to remove economic sanctions from Myanmar comes as a reward for its progression into democracy following decades of military rule. Suu Kyi-led National League for Democracy won the 2015 Myanmar general elections in a landslide, ending decades of military rule that had crippled business in the country.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, President. What's your time? Thank you,
Soon. Soon. A transition to elections. I indicated after consulting with Dasu that the United States is now prepared to lift sanctions that we have imposed on Burma for quite some time. I think this will give the United States, our businesses, our nonprofit institutions, greater incentive to invest and participate in what we hope will be an increasingly democratic and prosperous partner for us in the region. Everybody ready?
The 10-day-long Hindu festival of Ganesh Chaturthi came to an end on Thursday. Idols of Lord Ganesha were immersed in water amid festive fanfare.
Thousands of devotees across India performed the farewell ritual as they bid adieu to Lord Ganesha after 10 days of prayers. The event was particularly spectacular in western Mumbai city, where the ritual is performed with high enthusiasm. Though the city received downpour, devotees were unfazed from coming out to the streets and bid farewell to the Lord. In neighbouring Nagpur city, the deity was sent off amid drumbeats and high-octane play of trumpets.
सभी को आज आनंद भर उत्सव की बहुत बहुत बधाई। गणपति जी अपने पास 10 दिन आए, सभी को आशीर्वाद दिया, सभी को खुशियाँ दी, सभी को सद्बुद्धि दे भगवान, सब लोग सुखी से, समृद्धि से, पारिवारिक सुख शांति के साथ गणपति उत्सव की कामना करता हूँ गणेश जी के पास।
On the last day of the festival, Ganesha idols are taken through the streets in a procession, accompanied by singing and dancing, and later immersed in a river or sea, symbolizing the ritual of seeing off his journey towards his abode, taking away with him the misfortune of all mankind.
People in eastern India took holy dip a day ahead of the beginning of a period in the Hindu calendar where homage is paid to the dead ancestors.
People from across the country thronged Gaya city of India's eastern Bihar province on Thursday ahead of a Hindu ritual to pay homage and pray for the well-being of ancestors' souls. According to the Hindu tradition, it is a 16 lunar day period beginning with the full moon day that occurs immediately after the Ganesh Chaturthi festival and ends with the new moon day. The first day of the period is marked by lunar eclipse. During eclipses, devout Hindus prefer taking bath in the holy rivers.
पिछले कई महीनों से हम लोग जिला प्रशासन के द्वारा तैयारी की जा रही थी और वह अंतिम चरण में है। कल इसका उद्घाटन निर्धारित है और तीर्थयात्रियों के लिए सारी तैयारियां कर ली गई हैं। जो भी तीर्थयात्री यहां आएंगे, अपने जो भी उनके पिंडदान की प्रक्रिया है, बिल्कुल अच्छे और सुगम तरीके से यहां पर कर लेंगे।
This period is considered inauspicious by the Hindus, given the death rites performed during the ceremony for ancestors. People who perform the ritual fast on this day offer food to the priest and believe that this rite will deliver salvation to the souls of their ancestors.
Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude, the top stories once again. 6 killed, more than 150 injured in Pakistan train crash. India hits out at Pakistan for instigating violence in Kashmir Valley. And colourful processions of Lord Ganesha mark end of 10-day festival. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.